All right, so you're ready to like really get into Balota, huh? This Filipino film.
Political thriller.
Yeah,
Yes, Russ.
hitting Netflix soon.
Yeah.
And I know that there's like a lot of buzz around it
Yeah.
and like a really interesting mix of suspense and, this kind of social commentary. So
Shelley, yeah.
let's just dive right in.
Yeah. So Balota is really fascinating to me because it kind of plays with this very like classic thriller setup. You've got this everyman character, right? This
Yeah.
teacher guarding a ballot box.
Oh, wow.
But it uses that setup to really tap into these anxieties that I think we all have about, democracy.
Right.
And especially in the Philippines. I mean, the Philippines has a
Well, yeah,
long and complicated political history.
I can imagine.
And Balota seems to be diving right into the heart of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so like give me like a little more about like the actual plot of this movie because it does sound pretty intense.
Yeah, so basically you have this teacher, Emmy,
Right.
and she finds herself responsible for a ballot box during this really, really heated election.
Oh my gosh.
Things get out of hand pretty quickly. She's forced to flee into the forest with this ballot box.
Oh, wow.
And suddenly, it's not just her life that's at stake,
Okay.
but potentially the entire election.
Wow, talk about pressure.
Yeah, it's like they've taken that saying, all politics is local,
Yeah.
and they've just like magnified it to this extreme. It's
Yeah.
like one person,
Wow.
one ballot box.
Oh my gosh.
And yet it becomes this microcosm for how fragile
Right.
the whole system really is.
So I've been seeing all these reviews and people are like raving about Marian Rivera's performance as Emmy, like calling it powerful, exhilarating. And I've always been a fan of Rivera's work. I've seen her in a lot of things. And she's usually in these like glamorous roles.
Definitely.
So to see her in something this gritty
Yeah.
feels like a real shift for her.
I'm really curious to see how she tackles the emotional side of this character,
Yeah.
Emmy's not just some action hero.
Right. She's a normal person thrust into this really terrifying situation.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see if Rivera can like pull that off
Yeah.
and make it believable.
Yeah, make it authentic for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, something that stands out to me is that the director, Kip Oebanda,
Yes.
he has a bit of a reputation for taking on these like really difficult subjects.
He does. Yeah.
I know that his film Laiwei explored the trauma of martial law in the Philippines, but through the eyes of a child.
Right.
So, can we expect that same kind of depth and sensitivity in Balota, do you think?
I think so, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, Obanda is not a director who shies away from complexity.
Okay.
He's not just interested in delivering thrills.
Yeah.
He really wants viewers to engage with the underlying issues,
Okay.
with the stuff that's happening beneath the surface.
Right.
And in Balota, it seems like those issues are really about corruption
Right.
and violence
Oh, wow.
within the electoral system.
Okay, so it is like a thriller,
Yeah.
but also like a commentary.
Both.
Society. Yeah. It's a thriller with a message.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like a really heavy film, though.
It does, but I think there's also this element of hope in it,
Okay.
The film highlights the courage of everyday people like Emmy
Yeah.
who are pushing back against the darkness.
So, like, it acknowledges the problems,
Yeah.
but then it's like, okay, there's solutions.
Exactly. It's like that tension between despair and hope,
Yeah.
right? It's acknowledging the very real threats to democracy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also suggesting that ordinary people can still make a difference.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that it's not just like doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did read somewhere that Obanda made this interesting choice to cast social media personalities alongside like established actors.
Yes, that's right.
And I was wondering, like, do you think he's trying to mirror how social media impacts real world politics in the Philippines? Because I know that's a big thing, right?
It's a huge thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really bold move casting social media stars.
Right.
On one hand, it could feel kind of gimmicky,
Yeah. Oh, totally.
but on the other hand, it could be a really brilliant way to highlight how social media is used for both good and bad in politics, right?
Oh, wow.
It can be used for activism,
Yeah.
mobilizing people,
Yeah.
getting the word out,
Yeah.
but it can also be used for manipulation,
Right.
spreading misinformation,
Yeah.
especially for reaching younger generations.
Right.
So I think it's a really clever way to bring those issues into the film.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
I mean, especially because social media is like the way that people get their information now.
Exactly.
So it's like impossible to ignore it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And speaking of impact,
Yeah.
I know that Balota was a big hit at Cinemalaya, which is like the major film festival in the Philippines.
Yeah, one of the biggest.
Yeah. And it did really well at the box office, too.
It did.
Like, I think it raked in $135 million in just 6 weeks, which is huge.
That massive.
Yeah, that's insane.
Mm.
So what do you think that says about the film? Like, why do you think it connected with audiences so much?
I think that box office success really speaks volumes. You know, it clearly struck a chord with Filipino audiences.
Yeah.
Perhaps because it reflects their own lived experiences,
Yeah.
their own anxieties about the state of democracy.
Mm-hmm.
And now, with its release on Netflix on January 31st, 2025,
Right, coming up.
it has the potential to resonate with a global audience who are
Yep.
facing similar challenges to their own democracies.
For sure.
So I think it's a really important film for our time.
Wow. Okay, so to sum up, we've got a gripping plot,
We do.
a potentially transformative performance from Marian Rivera,
Yes.
a director who's known for his like nuanced approach to social issues,
That's right.
and a film that's already making waves.
Yeah,
So I'm definitely adding this to my watch list.
as am I.
What about you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I am curious though. Do you think that Balota can use the specific context of the Philippines to spark a broader conversation about democracy and its fragility on a global scale?
I think that's a really fascinating question.
Yeah.
I think it'll be really interesting to see if the film can resonate with audiences outside of the Philippines,
Yeah.
and if they'll see parallels to their own political landscapes.
Right.
I think that's something for all of us to consider
Totally.
as we watch the film.
That's such a great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how does this specific story about this one election in the Philippines
Right.
connect to the bigger picture
Yeah.
of what's happening in the world?
Exactly.
Something to ponder, I guess, as you hit play on January 31st.
Definitely.
All right, well, until next time, happy watching.
Happy watching.
See you later.
Bye. Bye.